The sun was high and warm, beating down on the luxury resort with a golden glow. Guests lounged by the sparkling pool, drinks in hand, laughter floating through the air. Mia moved swiftly along the poolside, carrying a tray of colorful cocktails. She had worked at the resort for nearly 2 years, learning to balance the chaos of demanding guests with her calm determination. Every step she took was careful and precise, trying to make sure no one's drink spilled, no glass broke, and no guest felt ignored. It was a busy afternoon. A private party had booked the pool area, and the guests were loud and flashy, showing off expensive sunglasses, designer clothes, and diamond-studded watches. Some of them whispered about Mia as she passed, commenting on her appearance or the speed at which she worked. She ignored it. She had learned that ignoring rude comments was part of the job. Mia had a reason to be there beyond the uniform and the apron. Her mother was sick, and the income she earned from this job went directly to her care. Every tip, every extra hour, every polite smile mattered. Mia balanced another tray as she approached a group of young women laughing by the edge of the pool. One of them, the most flamboyant of the bunch, rolled her eyes as Mia poured sparkling water into her glass. "Hurry up," she said sharply. Her tone was not just a joke. It carried the weight of entitlement that many of the guests at the resort had developed over time. Mia forced a smile and replied politely, "Of course, I'll be right with you." She had been taught never to argue, never to let anger show, no matter how unfair the treatment. She moved quickly, trying to satisfy the request, balancing the tray as if it were an extension of herself. Guests were watching. Some were scrolling on their phones, recording, laughing at small accidents as if they were entertainment. Mia felt her stomach tighten, but she focused on the work. She had dealt with worse. Yet nothing could have prepared her for what happened next. The young woman who had demanded Mia hurry leaned forward suddenly, as if to tease. Before Mia could react, she was shoved into the pool. The splash was enormous. Water soaked her from head to toe, ruining her uniform and hair, and making the glasses of the onlookers glint even more as they laughed. Mia emerged from the pool, gasping for air. Her heart pounded, a mix of shock, embarrassment, and anger. The guests were laughing, filming her with their phones, joking about how she had fallen. One of them called out, "She's so clumsy." "Did you see that?" Another shouted, "Do it again." Mia stood at the edge, her wet uniform clinging to her, her hair dripping water into her eyes. She forced herself to take a deep breath, reminding herself that she had to keep going. She could not let this ruin her. The money she earned mattered too much, and she had no one else to rely on. She climbed out of the pool slowly, carefully stepping on the wet tiles to avoid slipping again. Her tray had sunk beneath the water, but she didn't allow herself to react visibly. She picked up the broken pieces, her fingers shaking slightly, and kept moving. The laughter around her grew louder, crueler, and some of the guests whispered about her under their breaths. Mia's chest tightened, but she repeated in her mind, "Keep going. Keep your head up." She could not lose control, not now. The resort manager walked over, frowning as he saw the situation. He looked at Mia and then at the guests, unsure how to handle it. Finally, he said in a dismissive tone, "Just ignore it and continue working." Mia's stomach sank. She had hoped for some acknowledgement of the injustice, but there was none. Instead, she was expected to continue her duties, wet and humiliated, as if nothing had happened. She nodded silently and moved to the next group of guests, pouring drinks with hands that trembled slightly from the shock. As she worked, she felt every eye on her. Some looked with pity, others with amusement. She smiled politely at everyone, keeping her voice calm and friendly, though inside she was seething. She wondered why people found it entertaining to humiliate others. She thought about her mother, lying at home sick, waiting for the medicine she could only afford because of this job. That thought strengthened her. She would not break down here, not in front of strangers who didn't know the first thing about struggle or hard work. Despite the humiliation, Mia's mind stayed sharp. She memorized orders, refilled drinks, wiped tables, and walked with steady steps. She reminded herself that her dignity was not in the uniform or apron, but in how she carried herself despite the circumstances. Every time someone laughed at her, she felt a flicker of determination. This would not define her. She would survive this, and she would be stronger for it. Among the crowd, there was a man who did not laugh. He had been observing quietly, standing near the edge, partially hidden under a sun umbrella. He did not belong to the group of loud guests. His eyes followed Mia as she moved from table to table. He watched the incident, the push, the splash, the laughter, the manager's dismissal, and his expression darkened. He was tall, with a calm presence, and his suit marked him as someone important, though he did not make a show of it. Mia did not notice him. She had learned to focus on the tasks at hand and ignore everything else. The young woman who had pushed her leaned over the pool, calling out to friends, laughing uncontrollably. Her friends joined in, teasing Mia and joking about the incident. Mia felt her cheeks burn, but she did not respond. She kept her voice steady as she said, "Can I take your order now?" Her professionalism was a shield. She had learned early on that losing her temper would only worsen the situation. Finally, the party began to wind down. Guests started moving towards the hotel lounge, leaving behind empty glasses and wet towels. Mia took the opportunity to breathe, her muscles sore from holding trays and stepping carefully on wet tiles. She felt a mixture of relief and lingering embarrassment. The laughter still echoed in her ears. She had faced many difficult customers before, but this had been different. This had been public, humiliating, and captured on many phones that would likely circulate online. Despite it all, Mia refused to let it break her. She reminded herself that her strength was in her perseverance, in the way she could continue serving even after being pushed into a pool in front of dozens of people. She was exhausted, but her focus remained on her mother, on the bills she had to pay, and on the small victories of maintaining her dignity in a harsh world. She finished cleaning the last table and placed the used glasses in the tray carefully, her hands shaking slightly, but her smile steady. That day, as the sun began to set, Mia stood by the pool, wringing out her soaked apron. Her heart still raced from the incident, but her mind was clear. She had survived the laughter, the humiliation, and the disregard of the manager. Little did she know, someone had been watching every moment, not a guest, not a friend of the group, but someone whose presence would change the course of the story in ways she could never imagine. The millionaire had seen the injustice, the resilience, and the dignity of a young woman who refused to break despite the cruelty surrounding her. Mia did not yet know that her courage that afternoon would soon bring unexpected recognition, respect, and an opportunity that might change her life forever. As the party wound down and the last guests disappeared into the lounge, the pool area became quiet. The laughter and chaos had faded, replaced by the gentle sound of water moving in the pool and the faint clinking of glasses being collected. Mia stood at the edge of the pool, her wet uniform sticking to her hair damp and heavy on her shoulders. She had finished cleaning and putting away the used glasses, but her mind was restless. The embarrassment of what had just happened clung to her, and she could not shake it off. Nearby, the man who had watched everything remained standing under the shade of the large umbrella. He did not leave like the other guests. Instead, he stayed, observing Mia silently. His eyes did not carry judgment or amusement. Instead, there was a quiet focus, almost like he was analyzing every small detail, noting the way she carried herself despite the humiliation. He noticed her determination, the way she maintained her calm, even after being pushed into the pool. He had seen people break under far less pressure, but Mia had stayed steady. After a few minutes, he finally walked toward her. His presence was calm but noticeable. Mia looked up briefly, startled by the sudden movement, but quickly lowered her gaze, unsure of what to say. She had been taught to keep a professional distance from guests, no matter who they were. She braced herself, expecting a reprimand or perhaps a condescending comment, but none came. He stopped a few steps away and spoke in a low, polite voice, asking if she was okay. Mia blinked, taken aback by the concern in his tone. She hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. She forced a small smile and said that she was fine, even though her heart was still racing and her clothes were soaked. The man nodded, his expression serious. He introduced himself simply as someone staying at the resort, and he asked if he could talk to her for a few minutes. There was no rush, no authority demanding obedience, just a genuine interest that caught her off guard. Mia agreed, wiping her hands on her apron as they moved to a quieter corner near the pool. He asked about her day, her work, and how she managed the challenges of the job. At first, Mia gave short, polite answers. She was cautious. Most people who asked such questions were either being curious for amusement or trying to catch her in a slip. But his tone was different. There was no mockery, no judgment, just simple curiosity and respect. She found herself opening up, telling him about her mother, who had been ill for several years. She spoke about the struggles of paying bills, managing hospital visits, and supporting her family with a modest income from the resort. Her voice was steady, but her eyes revealed the weight she carried every day. She explained how she had learned to stay professional, even when guests were cruel, and how she had to hide her emotions to make it through long shifts. The man listened carefully, nodding in understanding. He did not interrupt, and he did not offer empty platitudes. Instead, he asked questions that made her reflect on her own strength. Questions like how she found courage every day to face challenges and continue doing her best despite humiliation. Mia realized that talking to him was strangely comforting. For the first time that afternoon, she felt seen not as a worker or a target for laughter, but as a person with courage and resilience. He then mentioned that he had observed what had happened earlier. Mia's face flushed slightly at the memory, and she hesitated. But the man did not press or judge. Instead, he asked how often such incidents happened, and if management usually addressed them. Mia sighed softly. She explained that while most guests were not as cruel, there were often small humiliations, overlooked complaints, and moments where the staff's dignity was ignored. The manager's instruction to simply ignore the incident was not uncommon. It was part of the harsh reality of service work, she said quietly. The man's expression grew thoughtful. He spoke gently but firmly about fairness, respect, and the importance of standing up against injustice. Mia listened, surprised at the sincerity in his words. She had not expected anyone at the resort to care, especially not a guest, let alone someone who seemed important. His presence felt protective in a way she had not anticipated. After some time, he smiled and said that her professionalism and dignity had made a strong impression on him. He told her that many people would have broken down or responded with anger, but she had handled the situation with grace. Mia felt a mix of pride and disbelief. It was unusual for anyone to acknowledge her efforts so directly, and it brought a warmth that contrasted sharply with the earlier embarrassment. The man then shifted the conversation, not to criticize the guests or the management, but to understand Mia's goals and dreams. He asked what she hoped for in the future, what kind of life she imagined for herself and her mother. Mia hesitated at first, unsure if she could be honest about her dreams. But something about his presence, his genuine interest, made it easier. She spoke about wanting stability, a chance to be respected, and an opportunity to grow beyond the constraints of service work. She admitted quietly that while she loved helping people, the constant humiliation and lack of recognition were exhausting. He nodded, listening intently, and then said something that surprised her. He did not promise anything immediately, nor did he offer a quick solution. Instead, he said that he would see that the situation was addressed, that her courage and effort would not go unnoticed, and that those who caused harm should not go unaccountable. Mia looked at him in disbelief, unsure if he meant what he said. He assured her that he valued integrity, professionalism, and resilience, and that he had the ability to make real change. His words were calm, but there was a strength behind them that made Mia feel hope she had not felt in a long time. As they continued talking, Mia felt a sense of relief. The weight of the incident began to lift slightly, replaced by a quiet determination. She realized that she had not been alone, that someone had witnessed her struggle and recognized her strength. It was a small comfort, but significant. She felt a renewed sense of confidence and purpose, as if the humiliation of the earlier incident had not defined her after all. Meanwhile, the man continued to watch Mia work discreetly as she finished her duties. He saw the care she took in handling every glass, the politeness in every interaction, and the quiet strength in her movements. He noticed the subtle way she balanced her own discomfort while still attending to the needs of others. Each detail reinforced the impression he had formed earlier. Mia was someone exceptional, someone whose inner strength shone brightly even under difficult circumstances. The quiet pool area now seemed peaceful, almost serene, a sharp contrast to the chaos of the party earlier. The sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting soft golden reflections across the water. Mia felt a sense of calm returning to her body and mind. She realized that while the incident had been humiliating, it had also revealed something important: her ability to endure, to maintain dignity, and to carry on despite challenges. As the evening approached, the man finally excused himself, assuring Mia that he would follow up and ensure fairness. Mia thanked him politely, though she was still unsure what he could do. His presence had been unexpected, almost like a lifeline in the chaos of the day. She returned to her duties with renewed energy, her steps lighter, her smile more genuine. For the first time that day, she felt a spark of hope that perhaps her efforts would be recognized and her dignity respected. As the resort lights began to glow softly around the pool area, Mia finished the last of her tasks and took a moment to breathe deeply. She looked out over the calm water, reflecting on the unexpected encounter. She did not know what the future held, but she understood something vital. Her strength, resilience, and professionalism had not gone unnoticed. Someone important had seen her courage, and that recognition felt like a seed of possibility, one that might grow into something meaningful in the days to come. The man, now walking away, glanced back one last time, a thoughtful expression on his face. He had seen enough to know that Mia was remarkable. He understood that her strength was not loud or flashy. It was quiet, steadfast, and resilient. It was the kind of strength that deserved respect and recognition, and he was determined to ensure that it would not be ignored. The events of that afternoon had left an impression on him, and he intended to act on it in ways that would leave a lasting impact on both Mia and the environment she worked in. Mia, unaware of how significant the encounter had been, returned to her small staff area, gathering the remaining supplies for the evening. She felt tired but empowered, a sense of dignity returning to her after the humiliation. She understood that the world could be cruel, but that her perseverance, kindness, and professional integrity mattered. And in that moment, she began to feel that maybe, just maybe, the hardships of today could lead to opportunities she had never imagined. The next morning, the resort was calm, the sounds of birds and soft wind replacing the chaos of the previous afternoon. Mia arrived early, her uniform freshly pressed, her hair neatly tied back. She moved through the lobby with quiet determination, preparing for another busy day. Though the memory of being pushed into the pool still lingered in her mind, she forced herself to focus on the tasks ahead. She had work to do, and her responsibilities could not wait for distractions. As she walked toward the pool area, she noticed the same man from yesterday. He was sitting at a small table under the shade, sipping coffee and reviewing some papers. Mia's heart skipped a beat. She had not expected to see him again, but there he was, waiting quietly. She felt a mixture of curiosity and caution. She remembered the conversation from the previous day, his genuine interest and the calm confidence he carried. She wondered why he was here and what he might want from her. He looked up and smiled gently as she approached. "Good morning," he said. "I thought I might see you here today. May I join you for a few minutes?" Mia hesitated for a moment, then nodded. She had learned that sometimes people who notice your struggles can also offer unexpected opportunities. She took a seat across from him, smoothing her apron as she sat. He began the conversation with simple, yet thoughtful questions. He asked about her work, how she managed the challenges of the job, and what her daily routine looked like. Mia answered honestly, explaining the long hours, the physical demands, and the need to maintain a polite and calm demeanor at all times. She spoke about the guests, some kind, some cruel, and the constant balancing act of professionalism and self-respect. As she talked, she realized how unusual it felt to speak openly about her life and struggles. Most people she encountered either judged quickly or treated her experiences as entertainment. But he listened carefully, without interruption, without judgment. His attention was genuine, and it made her feel valued in a way she rarely experienced. He then asked about her family, and Mia spoke quietly about her mother's illness, the financial strain, and the sacrifices she had made to keep her mother cared for. She told him about nights she had stayed up worrying about bills, about early mornings rushing to finish chores before her shift, and the constant pressure to be perfect at work, despite the lack of support. Her words flowed freely, driven by the trust she felt in his presence. He listened, nodding occasionally, his eyes thoughtful. He asked gentle questions, encouraging Mia to reflect on her own strengths. "How do you keep going?" he asked. "How do you manage to stay composed and kind when things are so difficult?" Mia paused, thinking carefully before answering. She admitted that tea was not easy, that some days were harder than others. But she spoke about the pride she felt in her work, the importance of caring for her mother, and the small victories that made the struggle worthwhile. She explained that maintaining dignity and professionalism was not just for others, it was for herself. To prove that she could rise above adversity, the man's expression grew serious. "You have remarkable strength," he said. "Many people would have given up or allowed the situation to define them. But you continue with courage and grace. That is rare." Mia felt a warmth in her chest, a mixture of pride and disbelief. She was not used to being praised for simply being herself and handling life's difficulties. His words made her feel seen, truly seen, in a way that was almost foreign to her. He then asked what she hoped for in the future. Mia hesitated, unsure if she should speak her dreams aloud. She had learned to keep them private, to avoid disappointment or criticism. But something about him made it easier to be honest. She spoke quietly about wanting stability, a life where she and her mother would not have to worry constantly about money, and a chance to grow beyond the limitations of service work. She admitted that she wanted recognition and respect for her efforts, not just as a worker, but as a person who cared deeply and worked hard every day. He listened, nodding slowly. "Those are reasonable desires," he said. "You deserve a life where your work is valued and where your efforts are recognized. It is clear to me that you have the capability and determination to achieve more than this current role allows." Mia felt a flutter of hope. His words were not promises, but they carried the weight of possibility. They suggested that her life could change, that her hard work and perseverance might not go unnoticed forever. As the conversation continued, he asked about the resort itself, the management, the staff, and the treatment of employees. Mia explained honestly about the lack of support for the staff, the ways in which complaints were often ignored, and how incidents like the one yesterday were not taken seriously. She spoke about the frustration of working under conditions where dignity was sometimes overlooked, and how difficult it was to maintain morale among her colleagues. He listened attentively, absorbing every detail. He did not interrupt, criticize, or dismiss her observations. Instead, he asked thoughtful questions, seeking to understand the full picture of the challenges she faced. Mia felt a sense of relief. For the first time, someone was listening to her experiences without judgment, without using them as entertainment. She realized that this conversation was more than just a chat. It was an acknowledgement of her life, her struggles, and her strength. The man then leaned forward slightly, his voice calm but firm. "I want you to know that your efforts will not go unnoticed. There are people who see your dedication and resilience. There are people who recognize the value of integrity and professionalism. I am one of them." Mia felt a lump in her throat. His words carried a weight she had not expected, a promise that someone of influence was paying attention to her. She nodded, unable to find the words to respond immediately. He smiled gently. "You do not need to respond now. I simply wanted you to know that your strength and character matter, and I intend to ensure that those who mistreat others are held accountable." Mia felt a mixture of relief and anticipation. It was the first time she had felt that someone truly understood the unfairness she faced, and that someone with the ability to act was willing to do so. After a while, the man stood, indicating that he would leave. He told Mia to continue with her day and assured her that he would follow up. Mia thanked him, feeling a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. She did not know exactly what he meant by following up, but she sensed that this encounter could change the course of her life. As he walked away, she watched him go, a sense of determination building inside her. She realized that her courage and professionalism, even in the face of humiliation, had made an impression. It was a reminder that resilience could open doors in unexpected ways. She returned to her duties with renewed energy, noticing small details in her work that she had previously overlooked. She poured drinks with extra care, arranged chairs neatly, and greeted guests with a warm smile, all while feeling a quiet sense of empowerment. The rest of the morning passed without incident. Guests arrived and departed, some kind, some indifferent. Mia focused on her responsibilities, carrying herself with a quiet dignity. She noticed the small ways in which her colleagues responded to her demeanor, some offering smiles of encouragement, others acknowledging her efforts with a nod. The memory of the previous day's humiliation lingered, but it was tempered by the knowledge that someone had seen her strength and recognized her value. By mid-afternoon, Mia found herself reflecting on the conversation with the man. She thought about the possibility of change, of being respected and valued, not just as a worker, but as a person. She considered the importance of maintaining her integrity, of continuing to act with dignity, even when faced with adversity. She realized that this encounter had given her a sense of hope she had not felt in years. A belief that her perseverance could lead to meaningful opportunities. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the resort, Mia felt a quiet sense of pride. She had faced humiliation, endured it with grace, and now found herself strengthened by the recognition of her resilience. She understood that her life could change, that her efforts could be acknowledged, and that her dignity could be respected. And in that moment, she felt a spark of hope, a small flame that promised that better days were possible. and that her courage and determination could lead to a future filled with opportunity and respect. The next afternoon, the resort's lobby was bustling with activity, but there was an unusual tension in the air. Staff members moved quickly to manage the guests, and the regular sounds of chatter and laughter seemed slightly subdued. Mia arrived, her steps steady, prepared for a busy day, but she noticed the way the staff exchanged quick glances, whispers that suggested something unusual was about to happen. She felt a flutter of curiosity mixed with caution. Guests continued to lounge by the pool, unaware that something significant was about to take place. Then the doors opened, and the man from the previous day entered with a calm but commanding presence. He was not alone. He was accompanied by the resort manager and a few other staff members who seemed nervous and alert. There was a sudden hush as the crowd of guests noticed the newcomer, the quiet authority in his demeanor immediately drawing attention. Mia's heart skipped a beat. She did not know what to expect. Her mind raced through possibilities, some exciting, some concerning. She remained where she was, observing from a distance as the man walked with purpose toward the pool area. The staff straightened, the manager looking increasingly uneasy, and guests began to murmur amongst themselves. Sensing that something important was unfolding, the man approached the same group of young women who had laughed at Mia the day before. He spoke in a calm, clear voice, addressing the incident with authority. "Yesterday, there was behavior here that is unacceptable," he said. The crowd fell silent, and even the loudest guests paused, unsure how to respond. He continued, pointing out the actions of the woman who had pushed Mia into the pool, emphasizing the need for respect and accountability. The words were measured, firm, and left no room for argument. The young woman who had caused the incident turned pale, her friends staring in shock. No one expected anyone to speak up so boldly. The manager looked embarrassed, shifting his weight uneasily, realizing that the person he had underestimated was not only powerful, but also observant and concerned about the treatment of staff. Mia watched from her position near the pool, a mixture of awe and disbelief on her face. The man's voice carried authority, yet it was fair. He criticized the behavior without humiliation, yet it was clear that such behavior would no longer be tolerated. The guests, who had once laughed at her, now looked uncomfortable, the videos and jokes they had shared suddenly feeling inappropriate and out of place. Turning to the manager, the man addressed the lack of oversight and the failures in leadership. He spoke about the importance of creating an environment where staff were respected, valued, and safe from humiliation. His words were deliberate, pointing out that professionalism required not only effort from employees, but also accountability from management. The manager stammered, unable to provide a satisfactory response, and the staff exchanged glances, feeling relief mixed with uncertainty. Then the man's attention shifted to Mia. He walked toward her calmly, making eye contact that conveyed respect and recognition. "You have handled yourself with dignity and professionalism," he said. "Despite what happened yesterday, you continued to work with grace and determination. That is rare, and it should be acknowledged." Mia felt her cheeks warm, her eyes blinking as she tried to process the words. She had spent the previous day feeling humiliated and overlooked, but now someone of authority was recognizing her courage and strength. The staff and guests alike stood in quiet silence, watching the interaction. The woman who had pushed Mia into the pool avoided eye contact, her expression a mix of shame and disbelief. Her friends whispered, realizing the severity of the situation, while other guests looked surprised, many feeling a sense of embarrassment for their previous amusement. The man continued, emphasizing the responsibility of those in power to ensure fairness and respect. He pointed out that the behavior witnessed yesterday was not acceptable in any professional setting, and that changes would be made to prevent such incidents from recurring. His words carried weight, and the staff listened attentively, understanding that this was not an empty threat, but a real commitment to change. He then addressed the young woman directly, making it clear that her actions had consequences. The tone was firm but not cruel, and the clarity left no room for doubt. Mia could see the realization in her eyes, a mix of regret and understanding that her previous actions would no longer be tolerated. After establishing accountability, the man shifted focus to the broader implications. He spoke about creating an environment where staff could perform their duties without fear of humiliation or disrespect. He emphasized that employees were valuable, that their hard work and dedication deserved recognition, and that the resort had a responsibility to ensure their well-being. His speech was calm, measured, and inspiring, leaving a sense of gravity in the air. Mia felt a mixture of relief and pride. The humiliation of the previous day had been addressed publicly, and the man had done so in a way that preserved her dignity while highlighting the importance of fairness. She noticed the subtle nods and expressions of agreement from other staff members, realizing that the environment around her might finally begin to change for the better. The guests, who had initially been shocked, began to understand the seriousness of the situation. Some whispered apologies or tried to minimize the incident, but the man's presence and words made it clear that the behavior was unacceptable. The shift in atmosphere was immediate. Laughter and mockery were replaced with respect and awareness. Finally, the man turned back to Mia, offering a reassuring smile. "Your professionalism and courage have made a strong impression," he said. "You should feel proud, and you deserve recognition not only from me, but from everyone here. The way you carried yourself in the face of adversity is something that should be valued and respected." Mia's eyes welled up slightly, a mixture of relief, pride, and gratitude filling her heart. She had spent so long working without acknowledgement, but now, in front of witnesses, her efforts were recognized. The staff began to relax, the tension in the air easing as they realized that change was coming. The manager, once authoritative, now looked humbled, understanding the need to follow through on the commitments being made. Guests who had once laughed at Mia shifted uncomfortably, many silently reflecting on their own behavior and the importance of treating others with respect. As the conversation concluded, the man assured everyone that steps would be taken to ensure fairness, accountability, and respect for all staff members. His presence had shifted the dynamic entirely. Where there had been laughter and humiliation, there was now awareness, respect, and a sense of justice being served. Mia took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the previous day lift slightly from her shoulders. The recognition from the man, combined with the public addressing of the incident, gave her a renewed sense of confidence. She realized that her dignity had been restored and that her efforts had not gone unnoticed. The humiliation of the past had transformed into an opportunity for acknowledgement and change. The guests gradually returned to their activities, their demeanor noticeably different. Conversations were quieter, smiles more polite, and the sense of frivolous mockery replaced by respect. Staff members moved with a renewed sense of pride, aware that their work was being appreciated and that their well-being mattered. Mia returned to her duties with a sense of purpose. She carried drinks with careful attention, arranged towels neatly, and greeted guests with a polite and confident smile. The sense of empowerment she felt was tangible, and it affected not only her performance, but the atmosphere around her. She noticed small gestures from colleagues, acknowledging her resilience and the shift in the environment. By the end of the day, the resort had settled into a calm rhythm. The man had left, but the impact of his presence lingered. The staff and guests alike were reminded of the importance of respect, dignity, and professionalism. Mia, standing by the pool and watching the sunset, felt a profound sense of relief and hope. She had faced humiliation, endured it with grace, and now witnessed a turning point that promised a better, fairer environment. In that moment, she understood something essential: courage, professionalism, and integrity could change circumstances, even in the face of adversity. The public acknowledgement of her strength had not only restored her dignity, but also set the stage for a future where her efforts could be recognized, respected, and valued. And in that realization, Mia felt a quiet but powerful sense of triumph, knowing that the journey ahead, though still challenging, held the promise of fairness, respect, and opportunity. The morning after the incident had been addressed, the resort felt different. The air seemed lighter, and the staff moved with a quiet confidence, knowing that respect and fairness were being taken seriously. Mia arrived early, her uniform neat and her steps measured with purpose. She felt a sense of calm determination, her mind reflecting on the previous day's events and the way her dignity had been restored. As she prepared for her shift, she noticed the staff exchanging smiles and nods, small gestures of encouragement and recognition for her. The environment felt changed, and she realized that one act of courage could inspire a broader sense of fairness and respect. Mia focused on her work, but she remained aware that the day might hold more surprises. The man from the previous days had left a clear impression, and she wondered if his influence would continue to shape what happened at the resort. By mid-morning, he returned, this time accompanied by the resort owner. The presence of both men created a wave of quiet anticipation among the staff and guests. Mia noticed the manager standing stiffly, now fully aware that accountability had a tangible presence in the resort. The man who had observed Mia before approached her, his calm and confident demeanor putting her slightly at ease. He smiled and said, "You have demonstrated remarkable professionalism and strength. I would like to offer you an opportunity to grow beyond your current role." Mia felt a mix of surprise and curiosity. She listened closely as he continued, explaining that he was offering her a new position within the resort, one that carried more responsibility, better pay, and the chance to influence how staff were treated. The offer was unexpected, and Mia hesitated, considering the implications. She had never imagined such an opportunity could come her way, and yet it was being presented directly because of her courage and professionalism. The man emphasized that the offer was a recognition of her character, not just her work ethic. "Your strength, patience, and integrity have not gone unnoticed," he said. "This role will allow you to continue demonstrating those qualities while making a real impact on the environment here." Mia's mind raced with thoughts about her mother, about the stability this position could provide, and about the chance to influence positive change for others who worked alongside her. She felt a surge of gratitude and determination. The humiliation she had endured just days before had transformed into an opportunity to lead, inspire, and make a difference. She accepted the offer, her voice steady despite the flutter of emotions inside her. The staff, who had been watching quietly, reacted with surprise and admiration. Colleagues who had once shared the poolside chaos with her now offered congratulations and smiles. Even some of the guests, who had previously laughed at the incident, seemed to recognize the transformation, their expressions shifting from amusement to respect. The man explained that her new role would involve overseeing guest interactions, ensuring that staff were treated fairly, and helping to implement systems that promoted respect and professionalism. Mia felt the weight of responsibility, but also the pride of recognition. She realized that her perseverance and dedication had led to a position where she could make meaningful changes and ensure that others did not experience the humiliation she had faced. He then turned to the manager, making it clear that changes would occur at every level to prevent further mistreatment of staff. Policies would be updated, accountability would be enforced, and a culture of respect would be established. The manager nodded, now fully aware of the expectations and the consequences of failing to uphold them. Mia spent the rest of the day transitioning into her new role, learning the details of her responsibilities and gaining insight into how she could improve the environment for staff and guests alike. The confidence she had built through enduring adversity served her well, and she approached the tasks with a blend of humility, focus, and quiet determination. Her colleagues offered support and guidance, eager to see the positive changes unfold. As the sun began to set over the resort, Mia found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. The humiliation of being pushed into the pool, the laughter of the guests, and the initial indifference of management had all been painful experiences. Yet each moment had contributed to her growth, her resilience, and ultimately, her recognition. She realized that adversity had a way of revealing inner strength, and that maintaining dignity and professionalism could create opportunities that seemed impossible at first. The man, observing from a distance, nodded to himself, satisfied with the outcome. He had seen a young woman face unfair treatment with courage, and he had taken steps to ensure that her efforts were acknowledged and rewarded. His actions had not only restored dignity, but had also set a precedent for the resort, establishing an environment where respect and fairness were valued. Mia's mother received the news of her daughter's promotion with tears of joy. The financial stability it provided allowed her to focus on recovery and well-being, relieving the constant stress that had weighed heavily on both their lives. Mia felt a sense of fulfillment that extended beyond professional recognition. She had created a tangible positive change for her family and for herself. In the days that followed, Mia implemented improvements in staff support, communication, and guest interactions. Her colleagues responded positively to the changes, appreciating her fairness, empathy, and commitment. The resort began to develop a reputation for respect and professionalism, with staff feeling valued and motivated. Mia's courage, initially tested in a moment of public humiliation, had grown into leadership that impacted the lives of many. The woman who had pushed her into the pool faced the consequences of her actions. She was no longer allowed to frequent the resort, and her online videos that had captured the incident were addressed with clarification, highlighting the importance of respect and accountability. The story of Mia's resilience and the transformation of the resort began to circulate, inspiring others to recognize the power of dignity, courage, and professional integrity. Mia continued her work with pride, balancing her responsibilities with the knowledge that her perseverance had led to meaningful change. She had faced adversity, maintained her integrity, and emerged stronger, respected, and empowered. Her journey was a testament to the idea that courage, patience, and professionalism could overcome even the most humiliating challenges. And that recognition often comes in unexpected but transformative ways. As she walked along the pool one evening, watching guests relax and staff carry out their duties with confidence, Mia felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The resort had changed, her life had changed, and her mother's life had improved. All of this had begun with a moment of unfairness, met with dignity and resilience. She understood that the path ahead would still have challenges, but she now had the strength, recognition, an opportunity to face them with confidence and hope. The millionaire, observing from a distance, smiled quietly. He had not only witnessed courage, but had facilitated change that extended beyond a single individual. Mia's story was now a symbol of resilience, respect, and the transformative power of standing strong in the face of adversity. The resort was no longer just a place of leisure. It had become a place where fairness, dignity, and professionalism thrived, a direct result of one young woman's quiet courage and the support of someone who recognized it. Mia knew that she had grown in ways she could not have imagined, and that the future held possibilities she had never dared to dream of. She had faced public humiliation, endured the laughter of others, and yet emerged not broken, but empowered. Her journey was a reminder that adversity, met with strength and integrity, could lead to recognition, opportunity, and lasting positive change for oneself and for those around them. The story concluded not with a moment of triumph alone, but with the lasting impact of dignity, courage, and the quiet but profound influence of one person's resilience.